3 months after the destruction of the UES Defiance, Ambassador Kethvar stood before the Zilithian High Council in chambers that had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic diplomacy. The holographic displays around him showed scenes from the battle that had ended with humanity's defeat, but the expressions on the council members' faces suggested victory felt different than anyone had expected. The human ship was destroyed as planned, Kethvar reported. Earth's military resistance has been eliminated. However, the engagement resulted in complications we did not anticipate. High Counselor Gendar leaned forward in her chair, her 4 eyes fixed on the ambassador. Explain these complications. The humans fought for 8 hours against overwhelming odds. They inflicted casualties on 437 of our vessels and destroyed 89 ships entirely. More significantly, their final transmission was broadcast throughout the galaxy. Every species with communication equipment heard their last words. The recorded voice of Commander Brooks filled the chamber. We chose to stand when we could have knelt. We chose to fight when we could have submitted. We proved that some things matter more than survival. The council chamber fell silent, except for the hum of environmental systems. High Counselor Gendar studied the casualty reports with growing concern. These losses are unacceptable for a police action against a single ship. The losses are troubling, Kethvar agreed. But the broader implications concern me more. The human transmission has been analyzed by behavioral scientists across 12 species. Dr. Veltar's preliminary report suggests human psychology operates according to principles we do not understand. On the Craxian homeworld, Admiral Vorth met with the Military Strategic Council in Dr. Veltar of the Zilithian Science Council watched the tactical displays from his observation ship, his 4 hands moving rapidly across data analysis controls. The battle had been raging for 7 hours, far longer than any computer model had predicted. The single human vessel should have been destroyed in the first 20 minutes, yet it continued to fight with a ferocity that defied all logical explanation. Analysis update, he spoke into his recording device, his translated voice carrying scientific precision. Hour 7 of engagement. Human vessel has sustained damage equivalent to 12 times the threshold for crew abandonment according to galactic military standards. Estimated casualties aboard enemy ship exceed 70%, yet resistance continues at maximum intensity. Through the observation ports, Veltar could see the Defiance surrounded by alien ships like a wounded animal beset by hunters. Weapons fire lit space in constant flashes, while debris from both sides drifted in expanding clouds. The human ship's hull was torn and blackened, atmosphere streaming from dozens of breaches, yet its weapons still blazed defiance at the surrounding fleet. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Vorth struggled with a tactical situation that violated every principle of civilized warfare. His casualty reports climbed steadily as the human ship continued fighting with suicidal determination. 437 alien vessels had been damaged or destroyed by a single enemy ship that should have surrendered before the first shot was fired. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, recommend immediate withdrawal to bombardment range. We can destroy the human ship with long-range heavy weapons and minimize further casualties to our forces. Vorth studied the tactical display, watching his ships maneuver around the still dangerous human vessel. How many crew do we estimate remain aboard their ship? Approximately 90 individuals out of an original complement of 300. And they continue to fight. Yes, Admiral. Weapons efficiency has actually increased in the last hour as surviving crew members concentrate on fewer systems, Vorth had commanded Craxian forces for 40 years, fighting pirates and raiders across 3 sectors of space. He understood military tactics, casualty ratios, and the psychology of combat. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for enemies who fought harder as their situation became more hopeless. Across the fleet, other commanders wrestled with the same incomprehension. On the Aquilian Federation cruiser Harmony, Captain Geltos monitored communications intercepts from the human ship. The conversations between crew members revealed a mindset that challenged everything Aquilian culture believed about rational behavior. "They know they cannot survive," Geltos reported to his superiors. "Multiple communications confirm the crew understands their situation is hopeless, yet they continue coordinating defensive actions and damage control with increasing effectiveness." The odd, intercepted human communications painted a picture that disturbed Aquilian analysts. Wounded crew members refused medical evacuation from combat stations. Engineers worked in sections exposed to hard vacuum. Weapons officers manually guided missiles, while their targeting computers were offline. Each act of self-sacrifice enabled others to continue fighting. In the observation ship, Dr. Veltar compiled behavioral data that contradicted established models of sentient psychology. Subject species demonstrates consistent pattern of escalating. Resistance in inverse proportion to probability of survival. This behavior violates fundamental principles of evolutionary self-preservation. The Zilithian scientist accessed historical databases, searching for comparable examples among known galactic species. The results were disturbing. No other civilization had ever demonstrated the human pattern of fighting harder as defeat became more certain. Hypothesis, Veltar recorded. Human psychology may operate according to principles unknown to galactic science. Their behavior suggests they value abstract concepts like independence and dignity above physical survival. This implies a fundamental difference in cognitive evolution. On the Thrakari battlecruiser Dominance, General Mook consulted with his strategic computers, inputting variables that should have predicted human surrender 6 hours ago. The artificial intelligence systems had no framework for analyzing enemies, who became more dangerous as they took more casualties. Computer analysis indicates human behavior is irrational by all established parameters, Mook's aide reported. They continue fighting despite mathematical certainty of destruction. Mook studied the tactical displays, watching the human ship maneuver through the alien fleet with desperate skill. Perhaps our definition of rational needs adjustment. They appear to be achieving their tactical objectives. What objectives, General? They cannot win this engagement? No, Mook agreed. But they can make victory expensive for us. Every hour they continue fighting, every ship they damage or destroy, increases the cost of conquering their species. Perhaps that is their true objective. The concept troubled General Mook more than he cared to admit. Thrakari military doctrine emphasized efficient conquest with minimal losses. The idea of accepting certain death to inflict maximum damage on an enemy represented a form of warfare his people had never encountered. As the 8th hour of battle began, the human communications that Aquilian sensors intercepted took on an almost ritualistic quality. Crew members reported their status with calm professionalism despite wounds that should have incapacitated them. Officers coordinated complex tactical maneuvers while their ship disintegrated around them. Engineering. To bridge, came one transmission. Reactor containment at 12% and falling. We can maintain power for approximately 15 minutes before core breach. Understood, Pete, came the reply from Commander Brooks. Can you give us one more miracle? Always, Commander. We didn't come this far to quit now. The casual acceptance of approaching death in these exchanges disturbed alien observers. Dr. Veltar found himself questioning fundamental assumptions about consciousness and survival instincts. Additional hypothesis, he recorded. Human species may have evolved different relationship with death than other known sentients. They appear to view dying for principles as acceptable or even preferable outcome compared to surviving under unwanted conditions. Admiral Vorth finally made the decision that military logic demanded. All ships, withdraw to bombardment range. Prepare for coordinated heavy weapons fire. We will end this engagement quickly and minimize further casualties. To our forces. The alien fleet pulled back from the crippled human ship, weapons charging for a final overwhelming barrage. On the Defiance, the surviving crew prepared for their last moments with the same professional competence they had shown throughout the battle. All stations, this is the bridge, Commander Brooks announced. Enemy fleet is withdrawing to firing. Positions. We have approximately 3 minutes before final attack. It has been an honor serving with each of you. The responses came from throughout the ship, voices steady despite the approaching end. Engineering, standing by. Proud to serve, Commander. Weapons ready for final engagement. Give them hell, Captain. Medical, treating casualties and proud of every one of them. Communications, maintaining links to Earth. Our story will be told. Dr. Veltar recorded everything, his scientific mind struggling to process data that challenged established theories about sentient behavior. The humans were about to die for abstract principles that provided no material benefit to their survival or their species' continuation. Yet they faced destruction with calm determination, as if dying for their beliefs was a natural and acceptable choice. The alien fleet opened fire with coordinated precision, thousands of heavy weapons targeting. The single human ship, the Defiance, vanished in a sphere of incandescent energy that briefly outshone the local star. When the light faded, nothing remained but expanding gases and debris. The battle was over. The human ship was destroyed. The Galactic Confederation had achieved victory, but across the alien fleet, commanders and scientists struggled with a troubling realization. They had won the engagement, but something fundamental had changed. The galaxy had witnessed something new and disturbing, a species that chose death over submission, that fought harder when facing certain defeat, that valued principles above survival. Dr. Veltar began composing his preliminary report, knowing it would challenge everything the galaxy believed about rational behavior and civilized warfare. For the first time in his scientific career, he suspected the universe was more complex than galactic civilization understood. The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace like a metal storm, 43,000 ships materializing in perfect formation at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each vessel gleamed under the distant sun's light, their hulls polished and pristine, displaying the technological mastery of 12 different civilizations united under one banner. Admiral Vorth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display update as sensors cataloged every human defensive position. Scan. Complete, reported his tactical officer. We detect the single large human vessel at coordinates 77 Alpha, approximately 2 million kilometers from Earth's third moon. Only one ship, Vorth mused, studying the sensor readings. It appears heavily armed but still vastly outgunned. Perhaps the humans intend this as a ceremonial gesture before surrender. The UES Defiance hung in space like a scarred metal mountain, its hull dark against the stars. On the bridge, Commander Lisa Brooks watched her tactical display as thousands of new contacts appeared. The alien fleet stretched across space in neat geometric patterns, a demonstration of order and overwhelming power. "Final count coming in," reported Lieutenant Dan Murphy from the weapons station. 43,216 vessels. Average ship mass approximately 3 times our own. Brooks nodded calmly. "Signal from the alien fleet coming through." The main screen flickered, and Admiral Vorth's blue-skinned face appeared, scarred but dignified. When he spoke, the translation system rendered his words in clear English. "Human Commander, I am Admiral Vorth of the Craxian Navy, speaking for the Galactic Confederation. Your year of consideration has ended. We await your decision regarding integration into our civilization." Brooks stepped forward, her hands clasped behind her back. "Admiral Vorth, this is Commander Lisa Brooks of the United Earth ship Defiance. We appreciate your patience during our deliberations." "And your decision?" Brooks looked directly into the camera, her voice steady and clear. "The people of Earth have considered your offer carefully. We respectfully decline integration under your terms. Earth will remain independent." The alien admiral's scarred face showed genuine surprise. "Commander, surely you understand your situation. You face the combined might of 12 species with a single vessel. Continued resistance serves no logical purpose." "Maybe not from your perspective," Brooks replied. "But humans don't always do what's logical." Vorth studied her through the communication link, seeing something in her expression that his tactical computers couldn't analyze. "Commander Brooks, I have reviewed your species' military history. You have fought wars against impossible odds before, but this situation exceeds even your historical precedents. I am authorized to offer modified terms if your concerns involve specific aspects of integration." "Our concerns involve the basic principle," Brooks said. "No species has the right to force another into submission, regardless of their good intentions or superior numbers." "Then you choose destruction over prosperity," Vorth said sadly. "Your crew will die for nothing." Brooks glanced around her bridge at the faces of her crew. Lieutenant Murphy at weapons, Engineer Pete Martinez monitoring the reactor, Dr. Amy Foster at the science station, Communications Officer Sarah Young maintaining the link to Earth. 300 volunteers who had known from the beginning that this conversation would end only one way. "Admiral, we choose to stand for something we believe in. If that costs us our lives, so be it." The communication link closed. On his flagship, Admiral Vorth turned to his tactical staff. "Begin the demonstration phase. Use electromagnetic pulse. Weapons to disable their vessel. Minimize casualties, but make our superiority clear." "Admiral," his tactical officer hesitated. "Perhaps we should use heavier weapons from the start. Human military doctrine emphasizes escalation rather than graduated." Response. Vorth considered this, but shook his head. "The Confederation fights civilized wars. We will demonstrate overwhelming force, accept their surrender, and minimize the loss of life on both sides." The first wave of alien ships moved forward, 50, vessels armed with weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. They approached the Defiance in a perfect formation, their electromagnetic pulse cannons charging for coordinated fire. On the human ship, alarms began sounding as sensors detected the incoming attack. 50 ships moving in," Murphy reported. Configuration suggests non-lethal disabling attack. "They want to capture us alive," Brooks realized. "They still think this is a negotiation that got out of hand." "Orders, Commander?" Brooks studied her tactical display, watching the alien ships close to optimal firing range. By every rule of military logic, she should surrender now and save her crew's lives. But logic had never been humanity's strong suit. All weapons, target. The lead ships, fire for effect. The Defiance erupted with light and fury. Kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to tremendous speeds, crossing space in seconds to impact alien hulls with the force of tactical nuclear weapons. Nuclear pulse charges detonated in brilliant flashes, overwhelming alien shields and sensors. In the first 30 seconds of combat, 8 alien ships simply vanished in expanding clouds of debris. On Vorth's flagship, the tactical display erupted in warning symbols. 8 vessels destroyed, his officer reported in shock. The human ship's weapons output exceeds our projections by 300%. Vorth stared at the display, watching his neat formation dissolve as surviving ships scattered to avoid the devastating human fire. They're not trying to disable us. They're trying to kill as many of us as possible. The battle evolved rapidly, from a police action to a desperate fight for survival. More alien ships joined the attack, their weapons now set to lethal force. The Defiance maneuvered through the engagement zone like a wounded predator, its heavy armor absorbing hits that would have destroyed lighter vessels. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Pete Martinez reported, his hands flying over damage control systems. "Sealing emergency bulkheads and rerouting power." "Weapons status?" "Forward kinetic launchers operating at 80% capacity," Murphy replied, continuing to fire as alien ships swarmed around them. "Nuclear charges down to 60% of original load." The human ship fought with a savagery that shocked the alien observers. When weapon systems failed, crew members bypassed safety protocols to restore function. When armor plating was torn away, damage control teams worked in vacuum to seal breaches. When the bridge lost power, officers continued coordinating the battle using hand signals and backup communications. Admiral Vorth found himself facing a situation no Craxian tactical manual had ever covered. His ships were taking casualties at an unacceptable rate against a single enemy vessel that should have surrendered hours ago. "Sir, recommend we withdraw to safe distance and bombard with heavy weapons," suggested his tactical officer. Vorth watched another of his ships explode under human fire. "No. If we must destroy them, we do it honorably. All ships, close-range assault. Overwhelm their defenses through superior numbers." What followed was a battle unlike anything the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. The Defiance fought, surrounded by hundreds of alien ships, its weapons blazing in all directions while enemy fire tore at its hull. Human crew members died at their stations, but were immediately replaced by others who stepped over their bodies to continue the fight. In the engineering section, Pete Martinez worked frantically to keep the reactor stable as explosions shook the ship. "Containment field at 45% and falling," he called over the intercom. "If we lose main power, we're done." "How long can you hold it together?" Brooks asked from the bridge. Pete looked around at his team, seeing the same determination in their faces that he felt in his heart. "As long as you need, Commander. We didn't come this far to quit now." The battle raged for 6 hours. The Defiance took damage that should have been instantly fatal and kept fighting. Its crew performed miracles of engineering and courage, keeping weapons firing and systems operational through pure stubborn refusal to give up. But mathematics is still mathematics, and even human determination has limits. As the 7th hour began, Commander Brooks looked around her shattered bridge and realized the end had come. Half her crew was dead or wounded. The ship's hull was breached in dozens of places. The reactor was on the edge of critical failure. "Sarah," she called to her communications officer, "can you raise Earth?" Yes, Commander. Link is stable. Brooks activated the ship-wide intercom and the communication link to Earth simultaneously. This is Commander Brooks to all hands and to Earth Command. We have fought the good fight. We have stood against impossible odds and made them work for every meter of space. In approximately 10 minutes, this ship will be destroyed. But we will not surrender. Her voice carried across space to Earth, where billions of people listened in. Absolute silence. We chose to stand when we could have knelt. We chose to fight when we could have submitted. We proved that some things matter more than survival. Tell our story. Remember why we fought. The alien fleet closed in for the final assault. 40,000 ships converging on one battered human vessel that refused to die quietly. The president's office felt smaller than usual, with 12 people crowded around the conference table. Jake Sullivan had delivered his report 3 hours ago, and the room still buzzed with tension thick enough to cut. Defense Secretary Robert Hayes drummed his fingers against the polished wood, while Admiral Lisa Brooks studied the holographic display showing alien fleet positions. So they want us to roll over and accept their rule, President Martinez said. 40,000 ships says, we don't have much choice in the matter. The math is pretty clear, admitted General Foster from his seat near the window. Even if we could build our fleet up to 1,000 ships in the next year, we'd still be outnumbered 40-1, and their individual ships are more advanced than ours. Jake shifted in his chair. There's something else. During my time on their station, I observed their behavior, their protocols, their way of thinking. They fight like they negotiate. Carefully, by rules, with minimal waste. They've never faced an enemy that doesn't follow the same principles. Admiral Brooks looked up from her display. What are you thinking, Captain? I'm thinking they expect us to be reasonable. They expect us to surrender when the odds become impossible. They've probably never fought a species that considers dying for a principle more important than living under someone else's rules. The room fell quiet. President Martinez leaned back in his chair, studying the faces around the table. Are we seriously considering military resistance against those odds? We're considering all options, Defense Secretary Hayes said carefully. But Jake has a point. If we're going to fight, we can't fight their kind of war. We need to fight our kind of war. Over the next 6 months, Earth transformed. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels and colony ships switched to military production. But instead of trying to match alien numbers, humanity focused on building one ship that could hit far above its weight class. Commander Lisa Brooks supervised construction of the vessel from Luna Shipyard 7. The ship took shape. Slowly, each component designed and tested beyond normal standards. Chief Engineer Pete Martinez worked 18-hour days integrating systems that had never been combined before. The reactors running at 112% of theoretical maximum, Pete reported during one of their daily briefings. Dr. Amy Foster says her calculations are solid, but we're pushing physics pretty hard here. Lisa nodded, checking another item off her list. What about the weapons systems? Loaded for bear, Pete grinned, but his expression turned serious. We've got kinetic kill vehicles that can punch through anything the aliens have shown us. Nuclear pulse charges for close-range work, and some surprises that Dr. Foster cooked up based on captured alien technology. The ship they were building looked nothing like the sleek vessels in the alien fleet. The UES Defiance resembled a massive metal brick bristling with weapons, sensors, and armor plating. Every system had backups, and every backup had manual overrides. She's not pretty, Lisa admitted, watching the final hull plates being welded into place. But she's built to take punishment and keep fighting. While Earth prepared its single ship, the galaxy watched and debated. On the Zilithian homeworld, Ambassador Kethvar reviewed intelligence reports with growing confusion. "They are building only one ship," his aide reported. "All of their military production has been focused on this single vessel. It appears heavily armed and armored, but it is still only one ship against our fleet." Kethvar studied the reports. Human behavior continued to puzzle him. Perhaps they intend to use it as a symbol, a gesture of defiance before surrendering. On the Craxian military station, Admiral Vorth met with his strategic planning committee. The holographic display showed Earth's solar system with detailed analysis of human defensive positions. "Intelligence suggests the humans are preparing for guerrilla warfare," reported Colonel Mays. "Mining laser platforms hidden in asteroid fields, automated defense drones scattered throughout their system, and this single large vessel of unknown capability." Vorth nodded slowly. "They cannot hope to win, but they may intend to make conquest expensive. We should prepare for a longer campaign than originally planned." Back on Earth, the final months of preparation took on a desperate edge. Captain Helen Grant led intelligence operations that intercepted alien communications, providing crucial data about enemy fleet movements and tactical doctrine. "They're planning a demonstration," she reported to the Defense Council. "The aliens want to minimize casualties while showing overwhelming force. They think a display of their fleet's power will convince us to surrender without fighting, President." Martinez studied the intelligence summary. "They still don't understand us, do they?" "No, sir," Helen agreed. "They keep analyzing our behavior through their own cultural lens. They can't comprehend why anyone would fight a battle they know they'll lose." As the deadline approached, Earth's single ship neared completion. The crew of 300 volunteers had trained for months, learning every system and every backup system. They practiced damage control scenarios that assumed catastrophic failures. They rehearsed combat tactics designed for fighting while heavily outnumbered. Dr. Amy Foster made final adjustments to the ship's computer systems in the weeks before launch. "I've programmed every tactical scenario I can think of," she told Commander Brooks. "The AI can handle multiple tasks simultaneously, but it's designed to accept human override on everything. When things get desperate, human intuition might be our only advantage." Pete Martinez completed the final engineering inspections 3 days before the alien fleet's arrival. "She's ready," he announced. "Every system is tested and operational. The crew knows their jobs. If we're going to make a statement, this ship will let us make it loud and clear." The night before the alien fleet reached Earth's outer system, Commander Brooks addressed her crew over the ship's internal communication system. 300 faces looked back at her from screens throughout the vessel. "Tomorrow we face impossible odds," she said simply. 40,000 alien ships against our one. Logic says we can't win. Mathematics says we should surrender. Every tactical manual ever written says resistance is futile." The crew waited in silence. "But we're not here to win by their rules," Brooks continued. "We're here to show them, and ourselves, what humans are made of. We're here to prove that some things matter more than survival. We're here to stand up for the idea that no species, no matter how powerful, has the right to decide how others should live." In the hangar bays, weapons crews made final checks on kinetic missiles and nuclear charges. In engineering, Pete's team verified reactor containment and backup power systems. Throughout the ship, 300 people prepared to face death rather than kneel. On alien command ships gathering at the edge of Earth's solar system, strategic computers calculated probable outcomes. Every simulation showed the same result. Quick human surrender followed by orderly integration into the Confederation. The computers had access to extensive databases on human psychology, culture, and military history. But they had been programmed by species that valued survival above all else, and they could not process the concept of a civilization that chose death over submission. As Earth's sun set on humanity's last day of independence, the crew of the UES Defiance took their positions and waited for morning. The massive chamber stretched out like a metal canyon with walls that reached up into darkness. 12 different alien species sat in curved seats that formed a perfect circle around the center where Captain Jake Sullivan stood alone. The air tasted strange and metallic, filtered through systems designed for beings who breathed different gases and lived under different suns. Jake kept his hands at his sides and his face calm, even though every instinct told him to run. Ambassador Kethvar rose from his seat with movements that reminded Jake of a giant praying mantis. The Zilithian's 4 arms gestured in patterns that the translation device turned into words. Human representative, you stand before the Galactic Confederation Council. We have called you here to discuss your species' future in our civilized galaxy. Jake nodded once. I'm listening. The chamber filled with sounds that might have been laughter from some species and growls from others. Kethvar's head tilted in a way that suggested amusement. Your species has existed in space for barely 50 of your years. In that time, you have established colonies on 17 worlds, built mining operations in 43 star systems, and created a military force that spans 3 sectors. This expansion concerns us. We're growing, yes, Jake said. Most species do that. A new voice spoke from across the chamber. Admiral Vorth of the Craxian Navy stood up, his thick blue skin marked with scars that told of countless battles. Human, your species fights too much. In 50 years, you have engaged in armed conflict with pirates, raiders, and 3 different alien governments. Your solution to every problem involves weapons. Jake thought about that for a moment. Sometimes people try to take what isn't theirs. We defend ourselves. Defend, Vorth repeated the word like it tasted bad. Your defense included destroying an entire Graxan raiding fleet, 700 ships, eliminated in a single engagement. The Graxan had only taken resources from 2 uninhabited asteroids. They took our resources without asking, Jake said, and when we asked them to stop, they attacked our mining ships. What did you expect us to do? The chamber fell silent except for the hum of air recycling systems. Jake could feel 12 different species studying him like he was some kind of dangerous animal. Maybe he was, from their perspective. Kethvar activated a holographic display that filled the space above them. Star charts appeared, showing the local galactic arm with thousands of systems marked in different colors. Human Sullivan, observe the order we have built over 10,000 years. Each species has its place, its role, its territory. Conflicts are resolved through negotiation, trade agreements, and diplomatic solutions. Violence is used only as a last resort, and even then, with careful limits. The display shifted to show Earth and its surrounding systems. Your species disrupts this order. You negotiate from positions of strength rather than mutual benefit. You refuse to accept mediation from established authorities. You build weapons instead of trade ships. This cannot continue. Jake studied the holographic map. Every human system was marked in red while alien territories showed in blue or green. They had made humanity look like a disease spreading through healthy tissue. So what are you asking for? "We are not asking," said a new voice. Counselor Thane of the Rixian Collective spoke with a tone like grinding stone. "We are offering you two choices. First choice, your species accepts integration into the Confederation under our guidance. You will limit your military to defensive purposes only. Accept our oversight of your expansion and follow established galactic law in all matters." And the second choice? Thane's eyes, all 6 of them, fixed on Jake. "The Confederation will enforce integration through military action. Your species will learn to cooperate with or without your consent." The holographic display changed again. Now it showed fleets of alien warships, thousands upon thousands of vessels arranged in perfect formations. Jake tried to count them but gave up after reaching 10,000. Each ship was larger than anything Earth had ever built, equipped with weapons and shields that made human technology look like stone tools. 43,216 vessels, Admiral Vorth said, watching Jake's expression, representing the combined military might of 12 species. Each ship crewed by experienced warriors who have maintained galactic peace for millennia. Your entire human fleet consists of what? Perhaps 200 ships? Jake felt his mouth go dry but kept his voice steady. "About that, yes." "Then you understand the mathematics involved," Kethvar said. "Compliance will result in a comfortable place for humanity within our civilization. Your people will benefit from advanced technology, expanded trade opportunities, and protection under Confederation law. Resistance will result in conquest, occupation, and the loss of your independence anyway, but with unnecessary casualties." The chamber waited for his response. Jake could hear his own heartbeat in the silence. These aliens had laid out the situation with perfect clarity. Earth had no chance in a military confrontation. Any rational person would accept their terms immediately. "I need to discuss this with my government," Jake said. "Of course," Kethvar agreed. "We are not unreasonable. You have one standard galactic year to consider our offer and respond. That equals approximately 13 of your months." "And if our answer is no?" Admiral Vorth's scarred face showed what might have been sympathy. "Then we will demonstrate why resistance is futile. Your species will learn that the galaxy operates according to certain rules. Those who refuse to follow those rules must be taught their place." Jake nodded slowly. "I understand your position. I'll make sure Earth understands it too." "Excellent," Kethvar said. "We hope your leaders will make the wise choice. Integration offers many benefits, and we would prefer to welcome humanity as willing partners rather than conquered subjects." As Jake turned to leave, Counselor Thane called after him. "Human Sullivan, surely you realize that continued resistance serves no purpose. Your species cannot fight the entire galaxy and hope to win." Jake stopped at the chamber's exit and looked back at the 12 alien representatives. They sat in their perfect circle, confident in their overwhelming advantage, certain that logic and mathematics would force humanity to submit. "You're probably right," Jake said, "but you might be surprised by what humans consider worth fighting for." The massive doors closed behind him, sealing away the alien council and their ultimatum. Jake walked through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy, all of them living under the protection and authority of the Confederation. They looked comfortable, well-fed, safe, but they also looked tame. As his transport ship prepared to leave for Earth, Jake thought about the conversation he would have with the President and the Defense Council. The aliens were right about the mathematics. Earth could not win a war against 40,000 alien ships. But Jake had spent his entire military career learning about human history, and he knew something the aliens had missed. Mathematics had never been humanity's strong point anyway.